and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Julia.
Hi, everyone. We're so excited to have you here today. And trust me, this episode is going to be a game changer for anyone who feels nervous about speaking English.
That's right. Today, we're talking about something that holds so many learners back: fear. The fear of making mistakes, the fear of being judged, and the fear of not sounding perfect. If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone.
Exactly. But here's the good news: you can break that fear, and you can start speaking with confidence. And in this episode, we're going to show you how to do that.
And here's a quick question for you, our listeners. Have you ever wanted to say something in English but held back because you were too nervous? If that's you, stay tuned, because by the end of this episode, you'll have the tools to overcome that fear and start speaking.
Yes, and remember, learning English is a journey. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. So, are you ready to break the fear and start speaking?
Let's do this! All right, now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the real question. Why do people fear speaking English?
Good question. And honestly, Jason, fear is one of the biggest reasons why learners struggle to improve their speaking skills. They know English, they understand it, but when it's time to speak, they just freeze.
Exactly. And there are a few common reasons behind this. Let's break them down. First, probably the biggest one: fear of making mistakes.
Oh yes, so many learners worry about saying something wrong. They think, what if I use the wrong word? What if my grammar isn't perfect? What if people laugh at me? And this fear stops them from even trying.
But here's the thing: mistakes are normal. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. Have you ever noticed native speakers correcting themselves while talking?
Yes, all the time. And you know what? No one cares. When you're having a conversation, the goal is communication, not perfection.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the second big reason: fear of being judged. A lot of learners feel shy or embarrassed because they think people will criticize their accent or their way of speaking.
Yes, and this is totally understandable. No one likes feeling embarrassed. But think about this. Most people are actually impressed when someone speaks another language. They're not judging, they're encouraging.
That's so true. People respect the effort. And even if someone corrects you, they're probably just trying to help, not make fun of you.
Exactly. Now, here's another reason people are afraid to speak: fear of forgetting words or getting stuck.
Oh, this is a big one. Many learners feel nervous because they think, what if I forget a word in the middle of my sentence? Then they panic and stop speaking.
But guess what? This happens to everyone. Even native speakers forget words sometimes. The key is to stay calm, find another way to say what you mean, or just pause and continue. It's totally fine.
Yes, and one more reason: fear of not sounding like a native speaker. Some learners hesitate to speak because they think their accent isn't perfect. But let me tell you, there's no such thing as a perfect accent.
Exactly. There are so many English accents around the world. What really matters is clarity, not sounding exactly like a native speaker.
So, to summarize, most people fear speaking English because they worry about making mistakes, being judged, forgetting words, or not sounding perfect. But all of these fears can be overcome.
And in the next section, we'll talk about how fear actually stops your progress and why overcoming it is so important. So stay with us.
Now that we understand why people fear speaking English, let's talk about how this fear actually stops your progress.
Yes, because fear isn't just an emotion, it's something that holds you back from improving. If you let fear control you, you'll never reach your full potential in English.
That's right. Let's start with the first way fear stops your progress. It makes you avoid speaking altogether.
Oh, this is so common. When people are afraid, they choose to stay quiet instead of practicing. They think, I'll just listen and wait until I feel more confident. But guess what? Confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing.
Exactly. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. Speaking is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But if you don't use it, it weakens.
That's a great way to put it. And another thing, fear makes people overthink their words. Instead of speaking naturally, they hesitate, trying to make every sentence perfect before they say it.
Oh, yes. And that hesitation can make conversations feel unnatural. Instead of focusing on communicating, you're stuck in your head, worrying about mistakes.
Exactly. And here's the next way fear stops. Progressist lowers your confidence. The more you avoid speaking, the more you believe I'm not good at English. And that negative mindset becomes a cycle.
Yes, it's like this. You don't speak because you're afraid. And then, because you don't speak, you feel like you're bad at English. And that just makes you more afraid. It's a trap.
And the worst part? Fear stops you from enjoying the process of learning. Instead of feeling excited about improving, you feel stressed. And when you're stressed, learning becomes harder.
That's so true. Studies show that when we're anxious, our brains don't absorb information as well. So fear isn't just stopping you from speaking, it's actually making it harder for you to learn English at all.
Exactly. So if you've been avoiding speaking because of fear, remember, your fear is actually slowing down your progress. But the good news is, you can break this cycle.
Yes, and that's what we'll talk about next. We're going to share real, practical steps to help you overcome your fear and start speaking with confidence. All right, now that we know how fear stops your progress, let's get into the most important part: how to overcome that fear and start speaking English with confidence.
Yes! And if you're listening right now and you've struggled with fear, don't worry. These steps are simple, practical, and anyone can use them to feel more comfortable speaking.
Exactly. Let's start with the first step: change your mindset about mistakes.
This is so important. Instead of thinking, mistakes are bad, start thinking, mistakes help me learn. Every time you make a mistake, you're improving. No one speaks perfectly all the time.
Absolutely. Mistakes mean you're trying, and trying is the only way to get better. So instead of feeling embarrassed, feel proud that you're learning.
That's right. Now step 2, speak, even if you feel afraid.
This might sound simple, but it's powerful. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. The best way to become confident is to start speaking, even if it's just a little bit every day.
Exactly. And start small if you need to. Talk to yourself in English, practice in front of a mirror, or record yourself speaking. The more you do it, the less scary it feels.
Great point. Now, step 3, focus on communication, not perfection.
Oh, this one is huge. So many learners worry about grammar, pronunciation, and sounding perfect. But remember, the goal of speaking is to communicate. If people understand you, that's all that matters.
Yes, think about it. When a tourist visits your country and speaks your language, do you care if they make mistakes? No, you're just happy they're trying.
Exactly. People will appreciate your effort. Now, step 4, find a safe place to practice.
This is a game changer. Find someone you feel comfortable speaking with: a friend, a tutor, or even an online speaking group. The more you practice in a supportive environment, the more confident you'll feel.
Yes, and if you don't have a speaking partner, try apps, language exchange websites, or even talking to yourself out loud. The key is to use the language regularly.
Great tip! Now, step 5, train your brain to think in English.
Oh, I love this one. Instead of translating from your native language, start thinking directly in English. Describe what you see around you. Plan your day in English. Small things like this make a big difference.
Absolutely. Thinking in English helps you respond faster in conversations and feel more natural when speaking.
And finally, step 6, have fun with English.
Yes, make English part of your daily life in an enjoyable way. Watch movies, listen to music, join online discussions. When you have fun, learning becomes easier.
Exactly. And remember, speaking English is a journey, not a test. Every time you practice, you're one step closer to confidence.
Well said, Julia. So, to summarize, accept mistakes, start speaking even if you're afraid, focus on communication, find a safe place to practice, think in English, and most importantly, have fun.
Yes. And coming up next, we'll share some easy and fun speaking exercises to help you break the fear and start speaking today.
Now that we've covered the mindset shifts and steps to overcome fear, let's talk about practical exercises that can help you reduce fear and start speaking with confidence today.
Yes, these exercises are designed to ease you into speaking and help you build confidence step by step. You don't have to be perfect right away, just focus on practicing.
Exactly! The first exercise is called the mirror practice. This is a great way to start speaking if you don't have a partner.
Here's how it works. Stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself in English. You can describe what you see around you, tell yourself about your day, or even practice a simple conversation.
This exercise helps you feel more comfortable hearing your own voice in English. It also lets you focus on your facial expressions and body language, which are important in communication.
Exactly. And once you get comfortable with this, try adding more complex sentences or even recording yourself to hear how you sound. It's a great way to track your progress.
Next, we have the shadowing technique. This is a fantastic exercise if you want to improve your speaking skills and reduce fear.
Here's how it works. Find a video or audio clip in English, maybe a podcast or a YouTube video, and repeat what the speaker says as closely as possible right after them. You're essentially shadowing their speech.
This is great because it helps you get used to the rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation of English. And don't worry about getting it perfect at first. Just focus on mimicking the sounds and flow of the language.
And the more you do this, the more natural your speech will become. You'll feel more confident when speaking because you'll be used to hearing and producing the correct sounds.
Now, let's talk about a fun exercise called Speak in Sentences. This is especially helpful if you're nervous about speaking, but want to ease into it.
To start, pick a simple sentence or phrase you want to say. For example, I love reading books. Say that sentence aloud 10 times. Focus on saying it clearly and with confidence.
Once you feel comfortable, move on to more complex sentences. You can even change the sentence slightly, or use different topics, like, I love traveling to new places, or I enjoy learning English every day.
This helps reduce the fear of making mistakes because you're only focusing on one sentence at a time. It also builds your confidence as you practice the same sentence repeatedly until it feels natural.
Another great exercise is the word association game. This one is perfect for improving your fluency and reducing the fear of being stuck while speaking.
Here's how it works. Start with a random word. Let's say apple. Then quickly say another word that comes to your mind, like fruit. Then another word like banana, and so on.
This game helps train your brain to think faster in English. You're practicing the ability to make quick connections, which is essential for fluent conversation.
And remember, don't worry if you make mistakes or pause for a second. The goal is to keep practicing without stopping for too long.
And our final exercise today is Speak with a Language Buddy. This is one of the most effective ways to reduce fear.
Find a language partner, whether it's a friend, a tutor, or someone online. Set a time to talk in English and focus on having a casual conversation. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's about practicing together.
Speaking with someone else helps reduce the pressure because it's a two-way conversation. You'll feel more comfortable and less nervous about making mistakes.
And the more you speak with someone, the more your fear will naturally go away. You'll begin to trust yourself more and become a more confident English speaker.
So, to recap, these practical exercises are mirror practice, shadowing technique, speak in sentences, word association game, and speaking with a language buddy. Each of these exercises will help you overcome fear and build the confidence you need to speak English more freely.
Exactly. And remember, these exercises don't require you to be perfect. The goal is to practice, make mistakes, and improve over time. The more you speak, the easier it becomes.
That's right, Julia. So start practicing today, and remember there's no such thing as perfect English, only progress. All right, we've talked a lot about how to overcome the fear of speaking English, but sometimes it's inspiring to hear real stories of people who've been in your shoes and have successfully broken through that fear.
Absolutely. Hearing success stories can really motivate you to keep going. So, let me share a story about a student named Maria. When she first started learning English, she was terrified of speaking. Every time she tried to talk, she would freeze up and feel embarrassed.
That's a familiar feeling for many learners, but what made Maria different is that she didn't let fear stop her. She practiced speaking every day, even when she was scared. At first, she practiced alone in front of the mirror, just like we talked about earlier. Then, she started recording herself speaking.
And over time, Maria felt more comfortable. She even started speaking with her language partner regularly, despite feeling nervous at first. Slowly, her confidence grew, and today she speaks English fluently without that constant fear holding her back.
That's amazing! Maria's story shows that progress isn't always immediate, but if you stick with it and keep practicing, you can conquer that fear.
Exactly. And here's another success story about Ahmed. He came from a non-English speaking country, and his biggest fear was speaking to native speakers. He felt that his accent or mistakes would make him look foolish.
But what Ahmed did was start focusing on communication over perfection. He would make small talk with his friends in English every day, even if it was just about the weather or what he had for lunch. It was simple, but consistent.
And slowly but surely, Ahmed's fear started to fade. He stopped worrying about making mistakes and focused on connecting with others. Now he regularly participates in English conversations without the fear he once had.
These stories prove that overcoming fear is possible with practice and persistence. You don't have to be perfect, you just need to keep going and trust the process.
So remember, just like Maria and Ahmed, you can break through your fear and become a confident English speaker. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and celebrate every small victory along the way.
Wow, what an amazing discussion today. We've talked about breaking the fear of speaking English, how to overcome it with practical steps, and even shared some success stories to show you that it's possible.
Exactly. And now it's time for you to take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start speaking. Begin now, just like Maria, Ahmed, and so many other learners who've overcome their fears.
So here's your call to action. Pick one of the exercises we talked about today, whether it's talking to yourself in the mirror, recording your voice, or shadowing a video. Do it every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Remember, the key is consistency. Don't worry about making mistakes. Focus on speaking regularly and having fun with it. Each step you take brings you closer to becoming a more confident English speaker.
And if you ever feel discouraged, just remember that you're not alone. There's a whole community of learners just like you, and every day is an opportunity to improve and grow.
Exactly. So, get started today. Break the fear and start speaking. You have everything it takes to succeed.
And before we wrap up, don't forget to hit that like button if you found this podcast helpful. And subscribe to our channel for more tips and motivation to improve your English.
Also, feel free to share your progress or any questions you have in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks so much for listening, and remember, the best way to learn is to speak. See you next time on the English Learning Podcast.